say this, another exclusive on YMH. Exactly a year ago, I said, who is the person we're talking about here? Before I call my lawyer and get anybody involved, it is true. The woman in Canada who called me has it.
You're not going to believe how this started. Not with a scandal, not with a confession, not even with a fight. It began with a text. One picture, no caption. A grainy still sent to a producer at 2:11 a.m., the kind of hour when truth dresses up like rumor and pretends to be important. The photo looked like it was taken through a dusty window, someone's silhouette caught between light and shadow, chin tilted up as if daring the future to do its worst. People stared. People enlarged. People argued. It's her. It isn't. It could be. And you know how that last one works. It could be is lighter than proof, but heavier than denial. It floats, it follows, it sticks to your shoes, and then it walks into the room before you do. She was not famous then. She wasn't even someone you'd recognize with your coffee. She was just the girl in the third row of auditions, the girl who waited outside casting rooms, rehearsing lines she knew would be forgotten 5 minutes after she spoke them. She had the kind of face directors called promising and the kind of luck that always arrived late. Rent was due. Phone at 10%. Heart at maybe 20, but she had a spine like a wire and a smile she could change into anything. People talk about talent like it's a miracle. In this city, survival is the real magic trick. That night, the picture drifted across town like smoke. It reached a gossip assistant. It reached a stylist who never sleeps. It reached a publicist who collects secrets like other people collect perfume samples. None of them knew where the still came from, just that it came with a story stitched to it by invisible hands. Not explicit, not clean, simply suggestive. A whisper about a past job taken when money was thin and hope was thinner. Maybe a music video, maybe an art film, maybe something none of the above. The details changed with every retelling, but the girl in the shadow didn't. People wanted it to be her because wanting is easier than waiting for proof. By morning, the city had turned the picture into a rumor and the rumor into a test. Would she break? Would she answer? Would she run? She didn't do any of those things. She went to work. She put on a borrowed dress for a day gig, one of those smile and pour events where sparkling water pretends to be champagne, and she listened. She listened the way survivors listen, with her eyes, with the corners of her mouth, with the distance between her and everyone else. She could feel the story brushing her sleeve like a stranger on a crowded train. She didn't push it away. She didn't invite it closer. She just stood very still and let it pass through. You need to understand something about her. She didn't arrive in this world naive. She arrived prepared, not by money, by hunger. By the kind of childhood where you learn fast that rooms have rules and rules have loopholes and loopholes belong to the bold. She wasn't cruel, she was precise. She knew how to make a room notice, how to leave before the noticing soured, how to keep friendships that mattered and forget the ones that fed on her. She didn't lie, at least not the way people assume. She arranged, she edited. She trimmed the edges of truth the way you trim a dress that fits almost perfectly and needs only a better seam. So when the picture kept circulating, she did the quietest, smartest thing. She told no one. Not the roommate who would have cried, not the acting coach who would have prayed, not even the neighbor who pretended to be a brother until rent day. She let the rumor run laps until it got tired, and while it ran, she moved. A friend of a friend slid her name onto a guest list at a private lounge that wasn't a club, not really, more like a dream with a coat check. The rules were simple. Don't post, don't shout, and don't pretend you're not impressed. She arrived alone, early, wearing that borrowed dress and her best ordinary smile. The carpet ate her footsteps. The host looked down at the list and back up at her twice, like he knew talent when he saw it, or maybe he just liked her earrings. Either way, the door opened. That's how storms begin. Quiet latches, soft rugs, and strangers who don't realize they're changing your story. Inside, the room looked like ambition had been liquefied and poured into glasses. Conversations hummed like expensive engines. There were people who could greenlight your life and people who could erase it with a shrug. Nobody asked her where she came from. They asked who stood with her. She answered with the only honest name she had at the time, her own. Then she did something even better. She listened again. That's when he noticed her, the one who moves rooms without moving at all. Not a celebrity. Something sharper. A connector. The kind of person whose phone is a gate and whose memory is a map. He didn't ask for her resume. He asked, "What do you want to do when the lights are off?" She didn't say, "Act." That's what everyone says. She said, "I want to hold a story so tight the audience forgets to breathe." He smiled, not because he believed her, but because he wanted to see if she could make him forget to breathe. He introduced her to names she had only read in credits. He floated her into corners where deals hatch. He watched how she shook hands, how she pivoted from light to shade, how she left silence like a ribbon trailing behind her sentences. He invited her back, not because she was perfect, but because she was unfinished. Unfinished people are opportunities. They can still be shaped. Meanwhile, the picture didn't die. It migrated. It would go quiet for a week and then reappear under a new rumor, a new angle, a new tug on the same thread. She did something in the desert. She did something at the docks. She did something with a mask. No one could say what exactly, and no one could prove anything, but the story served its purpose. It sharpened her outline. Mystery does for a career what makeup does for cheekbones. She landed a small role, then another, then a bigger one that didn't pay much but had nice lighting. She learned how to command a mark, how to slip into a rhythm with a camera like it was a dance partner who never steps on your feet. Crews liked her because she remembered names. Writers liked her because she didn't flatten their dialogue. Directors liked her because she would do the same scene 15 times with 15 small differences, each like a secret door unlocked. There were still nights she counted coins. Still mornings she swallowed your pride like it was medicine. Still afternoons she stood in front of someone with a clipboard while they measured her for reasons that had nothing to do with clothing. But the scale had started to tilt. People stopped asking whether she belonged and started asking how long she would stay. The connector kept opening doors. He didn't give her shortcuts, he gave her rooms. There's a difference. A shortcut makes you arrive too fast and too fragile. A room lets you study the temperature. She learned which producers preferred secrets to scripts, which photographers believed in the magic hour, which journalists carried knives in velvet pockets. She learned to take compliments like tips accepted, appreciated, never relied upon. And she learned the oldest rule. In this city, nothing vanishes. It just changes its outfit. So when a new version of the rumor resurfaced, this time dressed like a profile of her early years written by someone who had never met her, she did the thing that separates the temporary from the permanent. She outworked it. She gave a performance that didn't shout so much as settle on your skin. Viewers leaned in. Casting leaned closer. For a little while, the chatter quieted. The picture slipped back into the drawer where people keep myths and souvenirs. Then came the audition that smelled like destiny and danger. Not a blockbuster. A mid-budget drama with a director known for turning unknowns into obsessions. The scene wasn't flashy. It was deceptively simple. A woman hears a story about herself told by someone who claims to know her better than she does. 10 lines. One tear that shouldn't fall. One laugh that shouldn't sound like relief. She stood under the lights and did nothing. Not literally. She did that rare thing. She let thought do the acting. The room saw it. They felt the click of a lock. The role was hers 48 hours later. Opening weekend came and the city behaved exactly the way it always does when it meets a new face it wants to claim. Suddenly, everyone had known her all along. Suddenly, people remembered her from that thing. Suddenly, even the rumor felt like an old sweater stretched, faded, irrelevant next to the new cut of success. One night, much later, after the second film and the third, after the nomination that made her mother cry and the silence that followed the cameras home, she went up to a different rooftop. Same hour, same city hum. She held the old photograph at arm's length and let the wind play with it. She didn't rip it. She didn't archive it. She memorized it. Then she put it back in her pocket and turned toward the edge where the lights looked like constellations made by people who never learned the sky. She laughed, not loudly, not for show. The kind of laugh you make when you realize the monster under the bed was a shadow cast by your own shoes. Listen, people will keep telling the story their way. That's what people do. Someone will swear they knew her back when. Someone will whisper about the picture as if it still means something it never meant. But those are just echoes. The room she stands in now is louder. It's built from early mornings and last takes, from scripts with coffee stains and scenes that broke and got rebuilt. It's built from the silence she held on camera and the noise she refused off it. So yes, the rumor had its season. The city feasted, and then it found a new banquet, because that's what cities do. But the girl who walked in alone wearing a borrowed dress now walks out first, leaving the door just slightly open for whoever's brave enough to follow. She doesn't owe the past an apology, and she doesn't owe the future a favor. She owes the present her best work, and she pays that debt daily. And if you're asking whether the still was her, I'll tell you the only answer that matters. It was a younger version of someone who hadn't yet learned how to hold a story. Now she does. She holds it so tight the audience forgets to breathe. Not because she is perfect, but because she is precise. Not because she escaped the shadow, but because she learned how to use it as lighting. That's the truth. No headline can keep in a cage. The rise wasn't a miracle. It was a method, quiet, relentless, and full of choices that didn't need anyone's permission. If you want to see proof, don't look for the picture. Look for the work. Look for the way a room bends when she enters, the way a scene hushes when she lifts her eyes, the way the city keeps trying to rename her and she keeps answering with the name she earned. That's the story. That's the secret worth keeping. And if you listen closely, you can hear the city itself admit it with the kind of reluctant respect it saves for those who outlast it. So tell it how you want. Make her the rumor, the survivor, the star. Call the lounge a myth, and the connector a magician, and the fixer a ghost. None of that will change the simple, shining core. She didn't outrun the whisper. She outwrote it. She outworked it. She outlived it. And that, in this town, is the only ending that matters, except it isn't an ending at all. It's the inhale before the next scene. The lights are already warming. The mark is taped to the floor. And somewhere below this rooftop, the city that once tried to tell her story for her is lining up to buy tickets so she can tell it herself.